Hey everybody, this is Matt Feury here at Sundance 2020. The sun is set, but we're still having some fun. One of my favorite people to run into at Sundance, as always, is editor, director, documentarian, all-around ass kicker, Ondi Timoner. Ondi, you've always got something cool going on here at Sundance. What's brought you to Sundance this year?
We just did a sneak peek for friends and family of a new film we're making about the opioid epidemic.
Okay, so tell
And
us
addiction in general. It has the Congressman McAdams, as well as DA Sim Gill in it, and an opioid addict who's in recovery, who is a champion and absolute heroine, Destiny Garcia. And they were all here today for a private screening up on the mountain. It's called Coming Clean.
Coming clean. So when did you
supported it? Thank you for your support of it.
That's what I
Yes,
do. When did
they
you
did.
start work on this project?
2.5 years ago, I want to say. It's not like Digger, We Live in Public. It's like, it's short for me, 2.5 years. But it's amazing what happened in 2.5 years. That's the thing. Like the mayor became congressman, and, he did a sweep with the DA, and they practiced something called therapeutic justice, where they basically did something called Operation Rio Grande, where they arrested thousands of people in Salt Lake City. They were number 4 in the nation for opioid addiction, and a few years ago. And they swept the streets, but they put them all in treatment. Okay. They didn't put them in jail. Like, they moved them out of jail quick into treatment. And we followed sort of that, and also the mayor who lived with the homeless, to find a homeless shelter, his Mayor McAdams, as he becomes congressman, but also his relationship with this woman who's in recovery, Destiny Garcia, who changes his life and his outlook on mental health. That's one of the stories of like 4 or 5 woven in this film, which is sort of like, it's really complex, a really complex film, but I'm proud of it. I love it. And it's not done yet, but it's close.
Okay, so is it common that you have multiple projects or irons in the fire over time?
But I really can only edit one at a time. I edited this too.
How do you decide whether or not you're going to edit a project, or
we got greenlit too late? All the best editors were gone. It was terrible. We could not find someone of the caliber. We hired a lot of day players, and we hired people for like 2, 3, 4 days. And one good friend of mine who has great taste but is not a fast editor came on for some reason. It was clear that if I wanted to make the movie, I needed to edit the movie. And also, like, my direct connection with the keyboard and with Avid is so deep. It's literally like I discovered God in the Avid, like back 25 years ago or 23 years ago or something. So for me, it's just very deep. Like, I can plug into that world, and it's like I lose time. I'm in there for hours. I'll edit to 4 in the morning, So I can't really do anything else. It makes my whole life dysfunctional. Yeah, it's like a separate thing that I do on top of directing, And I did it for Dig, We Live in Public, Join Us, Brand, Mapplethorpe, which is a scripted film.
Right.
Starring Matt Smith, that the director's cut's coming out this spring. I've been working on that too, coloring and mixing it.
Wow.
Yeah, in New York. It's been awesome. It's beautiful. We did a Technicolor. Oh, it's gorgeous. The color. And now the boys back in, the church, things that were cut from the official version is back in the movie. That's coming out in the spring.
When I talk to editors or I talk to directors that mostly do scripted and then just do one documentary, I ask them a lot about how the process might be different between scripted and documentary. You really make your bones doing documentary, done the scripted one with Mapplethorpe. What was the big difference there in your process? If there was one.
Oh, there's differences, but I think that, with Mapplethorpe, you're working with such a team when you're directing something. You've got departments, and it's really about clearly expressing your vision on the day. And it comes down to that day and the mojo of that day. And then the edit's really interesting because you have multiple takes you can choose from. So you don't have, with us, we have different takes, sure, but not really. Not if you're really capturing authentic life. You kind of have that one chance to grab it, Whereas with Mapplethorpe, actually, we shot it in 19 days. So we kind of had that one chance. Sometimes we had 2 takes per scene. We had 19 days in 35 locations in New York. Have you seen it yet?
No, I haven't seen it.
It's shot on 16 millimeter, Super 16.
And why?
And Super 8. I shot all the Super 8. Because I realized we're not going to have enough time. We're not going to have enough peanut butter for the bread. I was like, I got to shoot stuff in between. So Matt'll be like lying there with money on him because he's like hustling, which is Robert Mapplethorpe doing that at the Chelsea Hotel. And Matt's just bored, actually, waiting for Nancy to relight because we don't have enough crew because we don't have enough money to have like exactly the crew that we should have for the ambition that we were doing, So she's moving stuff and he's bored. I thought, you know what? Let me just shoot some Super 8. and get some shots that I can throw in to give it like the flavor, and it works. It's great. I mean, I love Super 8. I've used Super 8 for everything I've ever done, except for We Live in Public.
Do you think your documentary background really sort of feeds into that? Okay, I'm going to find stuff outside of the takes. It gives you an extra sort of skill set in terms of making more out of a scripted film.
I do. I think that when you're a documentary filmmaker, you are just trained, at least the way I make them, is to look around all the time. And it's almost like you have to have eyes in the back of your head, you know? And so it's really kind of, it's an amazing thing to have a set and go, okay, what are all the different angles? Let me talk about it through with my DP. Let's plan this. But you're thinking more in terms of having eyes all over the room, I think. You know, so I would trade locations for multiple cameras or Steadicam. Like I need to have that kind of that feeling, like that Nashville feeling, okay. You know, Robert Altman, or like a Verite feeling, for it to feel truthful, for it to feel authentic. Because I feel like art, the more authentic it is, the more, you know, that's what we're looking for, an authentic reflection, even if it's comedy, whatever it is, you know?
Well, it seems like, you know, looking at your history, your background, that you've done just a little bit of everything. Is there something out there that, like, you know, on your bucket list of type of film to do?
I'm writing a film about my father and mother right now, and my family. Wow. Yeah, it's called A Stroke of Genius, and it's the script's like registered, almost done. Yeah. We're having a reading in New York very soon. Okay. That's the project that I'm, you know, teeing up. That's my lifelong dream. Okay. It's about my dad founded an airline the year I was born. It became the fastest growing airline in the history of the world. It was called Air Florida. Okay. And he is a wonderful man. He's 91. Wow. But when I was 9.5, he went from running 6 miles a day to having a massive stroke when his neck was cracked in a massage. So it was a freak accident. So, and then basically, you know, the movie sort of through my eyes as a 9.5-year-old and a 45-year-old who's kind of feeling like I needed to pick up the sword that he dropped and run with it because everything was taken from him. They claimed he was like an invalid when he wasn't. Like, he's super sharp even now. He's paralyzed for 40 years. And my mom stuck with him. It's such a love story. And they just had this great airline because they were like treated everyone like family. Wow. So it's a love story like on that level too. But it has a lot of crazy stuff. Like, I mean, you know, his airline crashed in the Potomac River 6 months before the stroke. It was like actually a movie of the week called like Flight 90. But it's also well-known, you know, crashed into the National Bridge. In a snowstorm on January 13th, 1982, and then on July 10th, he had the stroke. So, yeah, it's deep. I think it might turn into a TV series, actually. It might need to. Yeah.
No matter how it turns out.
I'm a little intimidated by that, by the way, because he says I've done a little bit of a lot of things, which
it's true.
I think I've done a lot of things. At least made a lot of documentaries. Yeah. So at least I've done that. Not a little bit. But I have never done a series. I've done a nonfiction series, but never a scripted series.
Well, knowing you,
that would be kind of cool.
There's no doubt you're going to see it through to the end. I can't wait to talk to you about it, whether it's a scripted series or whether, no matter how it comes out, I know it's going to be amazing. Thank you so much for braving the cold to talk to us today.
I appreciate it.
And you are the best,
I really
Ondi.
Appreciate your support.
Anytime.
Yeah,